No problem. Thanks for giving us some time here. My co-presenter, who was going to join me from McAllen, she was called away. She was on Lisa Cavazos from McAllen. She's the director of student services there. She was going to join me on mine. She had to drop off, but I'm going to show you some of the detail that she was going to present or talk with you about to you. I want to make sure that we're kind of letting you know. Recent events that have happened for us. Forecast 5 was acquired by Frontline Education around the Christmas time frame over the holidays. So we're excited about the change. It brings us closer to a whole boatload of data that we're really excited about. The services don't change. Our service doesn't change. We're expanding across the state. We have about 170 districts right now that use us in Texas. I do want to point out today what we're going to cover is some details around the 5Sight service, which I support as the analytics advisor for 5Sight. Travis, who's going to pick up in just a few minutes, is with the 5Cast team. Basically, what we do help from a decision support standpoint, help our users really leverage data to drive great decisions in the district and inform and educate your school board and your community. So knowing that you have bonds that are going to need to be passed, knowing that you have some really important decisions that are happening in this year, more than any, knowing your history, your historical data, leveraging that to say, here's where we've been, here's where we are now, and then here's where we're going. We bring the tools to the table to help you communicate that. So what I want to do is spend just a few minutes showing what we're doing with our work with I'll use Lisa's as an example. The 5Sight services uses your much of the data from almost all of it's from TEA. We pull this data in and then build these templates, report templates, to allow you to start telling the story at a deeper level. We have a whole series of visuals around enrollment and finance, property tax, salary, some staffing detail. And we've also expanded and built full stories, what we call stories, which are series of visuals that help you tell a story. And right now, the themes that we're really building out are around enrollment, finance, salary, and staffing. And if you think about this, the idea from our standpoint is to bring you some really quick insights where you can leverage, for many of the districts in Region 1, understanding the nature of your enrollment is critical. The numbers of students that are coming in and out in a year. This is McAllen's example. You can see they've slightly declined in students over time. This is an example of setting the baseline with your audience. And this type of a format, you can see there's a whole series of visuals that we include with this. As we work through these, it's showing demographic trends, subgroup changes, bubbles for certain grade levels. These are really important conversations in the district, but without the context, without understanding the baseline understanding of your enrollment, it really does help your audience understand why a decision may or may not be made. It also goes to looking at the biggest change in school enrollment. And this kind of leads me to what Lisa would cover in our conversation, is the change in enrollment at the school building level. And that was the work that she did with us recently and me recently, is looking at these that saw the decline in students, because there's some work that we can do, and we did, to identify the schools that had various loss. These are all school names. Whoops. These are all school names that I'll show here in this visual for McAllen. But the schools that she saw that were seeing some erosion in losing students happen to be in their lower socio. I'm sorry. These are your higher socio percentage of low socio students. These are the sites that actually saw some of the decrease in their students, and what they're seeing is, and I know there's a big concern with this in Region 1 around loss of students to charters. There's a lot of competition there. And there's also a lot of transfers that happen between districts. So we spend a lot of time in Region 1 in particular around this this concern. And what I've done with Lisa was help her kind of tell this part of the story. I do want to just say that that's part of the message. The other is in the stories format, I can offer any of the districts here that are not users or are users, either way, I can get you a version of your state of the district, which this is a single presentation that includes kind of your background for basic enrollment trends, your revenue, where your revenue comes from, how it compares to the state, and I can build this out for you and make it available to the users here, to any of you. So whether you're a user or not, we want to talk to you. We want to have a discussion with you about your data and help you, tell the story from this. I mentioned kind of looking back. This is the part of our service where we look back and historically look at the detail. Where I'm going to transition here to Travis is where we start looking at currently where you are. And I'm going to let Travis kind of pick up from here. And I'm going to take a look at the chat window. If there are questions around the 5Sight or either product, please drop it in the chat window. We'll make sure we address it for you.
Great, thanks, Chris. I've got Rebecca from Far San Juan that was going to join us and talk through. They're currently a user of the 5CAS product. So there's two sides to the 5CAS product. There's projecting within your current year, using that financial information and historical information to project how you're going to operate and how you're going to end the current fiscal year. Within that service, and some updates since last time that you may have seen this, is we've started pushing what we call an automated insight. And that's over here on the right, where we will send you a monthly report to your inbox where it talks through if you've been favorable or unfavorable in a month, how that's looking in the current fiscal year, and then where those variances could be occurring within your budget, whether it be by object code or if it were by function code. Then down at the bottom here, you can see we bring in a fiscal year-end projection if you're going to be favorable or unfavorable with those budgets. But using the power of getting in that current information, we're able to drive out a couple of different Excel reports that we push out. I'm going to start with these two, and then I was going to let Rebecca talk about how they're using the monthly financial report within their district, but we're able to then help you create and generate cash flow reports for your district to help you visualize what that revenue and expenses coming into your district and what that net cash flow would be. And then using that historical information to help you project out how your cash flow is going to flow for the rest of the year. These reports automatically update as data gets loaded each month. So as you close out your period and you load the data into the 5CAS system, these reports will automatically update and generate each month for you. The other one that we have been working with a lot of districts on is going through their program intent code compliance. So we help districts identify if they're going to be compliant with their maintenance of effort. For ESSA, IDEA, we will help you walk through those tests. We run the 3-year test, but then we also run a current year compliance test. This is a fairly new report that we just rolled out. This one will show what your state allocation is based on some inputs into the system. Then we'll do a budget analysis. Do you have enough budgeted to cover the compliance spend? How's your year to date comparing? And then are you projected at the end of the year to meet that compliance requirement? And then let's see. Rebecca, are you able to present or?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep.
This one here, the revenue dashboard, that one and the expenditure dashboard, we use it monthly to keep the superintendent aware of where we are in our expenditures. And he really likes this report. In addition to the general summary function and object.
Yeah.
He likes that it gives him the prior year and the current year, and if they're comparable. And so we use those two mainly every month. We reconcile in our books, and then we send the information to Forecast 5. They upload it, and these reports are just amazing. They have the graphs. They tell us where we were last year at this point, and if we're meeting our targets. We also use on the 5Cast 5, I noticed that we have that dashboard, Chris, that tells us where we fall compared to other school districts for functions. And it'll tell us if we're first or last. And we really use that one as well.
Oh yeah, in the 5Sight.
Right, in the
Slide.
stories, right.
Yeah.
We found last year when we were working on our budget, we found that we were basically last compared to other school districts in our region for function 31. And we had been hearing from our campuses that we needed to invest more money in counseling services and counselors. When we went into Forecast 5, it confirmed what our campuses were telling us. We were last basically in function 31.
Oh, that's really great. Yeah, using those peer comparisons.
Yes,
and
peer comparisons.
Yeah, and the 5Sight service can really drive out the comparative information between you and neighboring districts. So what you can do is you can always come in and look at your, and I know you were looking at the finance, the story side of the reporting, and here you can come in, look at your region, and this is pulling in everybody in the state, but you can come in here, look at your region, and then filter to different function areas. So if you want to look at the support services, you can easily pull those in. So now I'm just looking at region 1 and general fund spending and the support services. Now I've got my total percentage of operating funds, my actual amount I'm spending per student, and then the total actual dollar amount. So you can see some quick comparisons over here. If you want to see the different ways that you spent those, you can filter up here to change it. So it now would display by object area. You know, is that salary and benefits? And we've got those defined over here of how you're spending on those comparisons. So yeah, there's a lot of very powerful tools in here that will help you see how you're spending in different areas compared to your peers within
Yeah,
the
and
region.
the other one we do is the revenue dashboard, because it tells us it gives us a different perspective, or it makes it clearer which of our revenues are falling behind. And right now that revenue dashboard would be showing that we're behind on SHARs. And so compared to last year. So that dashboard, no, it's the one in live, Travis,
Yep, this one right here.
Travis and Becky,
Yes.
I love, and Chris, I love that we have a district sharing exactly what they're using, and possibly, I don't know if another district was invited. I had to step away just for a couple of minutes, but Oscar already offered a solution for us running just a little bit long. Take the time that you need, if you need the whole hour, because we can then go back and record me talking about the budgeting tools if we need to, and then share that recording later. So this is really cool. I love what I'm seeing and hearing. And of course, Becky, thank you for being out there. I don't know if Janet was out too.
Janet had to leave at 10:30. She had a conflicting appointment.
No worry, I totally understand all about that. So again, don't feel rushed, and don't cut out stuff that y'all were hoping to share with the group, because we've got a solution for the budgeting tools if we need it. So please,
Okay.
thank.
This is one that we really like, because if you look down at federal program revenues, it does a lot of the homework for us. We don't have to go through every account and compare it to last year. It has like this, Travis, help me out with the terminology. It has like this intelligence where it tells us you're behind in SHARs. It looks like this month it's back up.
Yeah, it looks like you got back up this month. Yeah, what we do over here is we set different thresholds for the districts, and then we compare that to your 5 years of historical information, and then each month we'll come in and we'll, like you said, we'll do the homework for you, and it's all automated. So it will write up and say if you're over behind in a certain area and where to go look at for those different variances. We do the same side on the expenses, and we'll help you drive out in your variances where you're either ahead or behind, and we'll also give you some further bulleted insights, saying that where you're at spending to the prior year in contrast to an increase or decrease in prior periods. So these are can be really helpful to see, is there an area that we need to go and look at? How are we trending overall compared to prior years? So the visuals accompany the write-up. One of the ones that a lot of clients, I have a lot of conversations are around, is the functional compliance side of it, and showing where, if there's any journal entries that might be needed, if there's any areas where you might be trending over in a functional area, so that way you compare those budget amendments to go to your board and have supporting documentation of what those are and what could be causing those variances. So yeah, this has definitely become one of our more popular dashboards. We see a lot of people logging in using this because this one will break down by function and object and tell you exactly what those spending variances are. And then, Becky, I think you got muted.
Yes, and it really complements the other monthly financial report because it does the homework for us. The monthly financial report is kind of a high level overview for the superintendent. And then we're able to take that report and compare it to these dashboards to see exactly which function, which revenue account number, which expenditure account number is falling behind or is ahead. And so the SHARS last month was at 600,000, and we're able to compare this month to last month, that now we're only down by 400,000 compared to last year. So it really gives us an insight that we don't have to do manually going account by account on revenues and expenditures. It complements the other monthly financial report.
Yeah, that's great to hear that you're using it that way. It's coming in here, and what we do is we come in and we'll actually pull in the districts. You'll see here, this is their actual GL account numbers. So you can see exactly what's going on within your own account code structure. So these reports, they really help people either write up what those variances are, what's causing them, or maybe they'll go find root out what might be causing some of those variances. I know, Chris, you ran through your section pretty quick. Was there anything that you wanted to highlight or go back over?
Yes.
Or?
Thank you very much. Actually, Lisa was able to join back, and since we have a little more time, if we can give her just a second to share. Lisa, hopefully you can hear me.
I'm here. I can hear you. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you jumping back in. Hey, I know I had shared just basically what work we had done around enrollment and kind of our conversation. But it's probably better to hear it from you. I just wanted to give you a second or a few minutes to weigh in.
Sure, and I don't have the benefit of having heard all of the conversation up to now, so I hope I'm not redundant or just completely irrelevant. But hi everyone, my name is Lisa Cavazos. I'm the Director for Strategic Partnerships and Student Outreach for McAllen ISD. And my work really revolves on knowing all things about our enrollment trends, where our children are, where they are going, where they're coming from in the case of out-of-district transfers. And this work was seemingly impossible. When I first came on board, I was, up to my eyebrows in our student databases and looking through old spreadsheets and trying to make sense of old files and things like this. And then someone said, hey, there's a thing called 5Sight. You should call this man. He's really helpful. And so I reached out, and it felt like, negative 2 seconds later, we were on the phone, and I was just like, the skies opened, the angels started singing, and this is like your data treasure chest if that's your game, which it definitely is mine. We have been able to look at not only our current data in just a very clean, easy, beautiful way, but our historic data too. And so as enrollment trends are shifting, as open enrollment trends are shifting, as our recruitment and recapture efforts are ongoing, we're able to really, really put hard data toward our decisions. And so this tool has made all of that possible. We look very, very closely at our entire pie, right? So if you look at the students who are zoned to our district, how many of them are with us? How many of them have made a different choice? What is that choice? Where are sort of our biggest gaps in terms of losing kids? And likewise, our recruitment efforts as an open enrollment district, we get kids from other places as well. And where are those kids coming from? And then on the outreach side, just really being able to dig in and figure out not just the number. Sort of the motto on our team is never a number without a story and never a story without a number. Why, the why behind that isn't in Forecast 5, but this definitely gives us the information that we need to go and chase the why. So I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for, Chris, if you wanted me to talk about something specific.
No, that's exactly. I mean, you summarized all the work that we've done, the last couple of years here. So the one thing I do want to mention is we did, just for your sake, yesterday, we added the 2021 transfer data.
Oh, I've already been all in that. Don't worry.
Oh, you found it. So I kind of beat.
Check Facebook.
I have a small handful of like power users that are in, and they find the stuff before we can tell them. So that's awesome. So the 2021 data is there. And I think one of the things that this is just showing the outbound transfers and then the trend of transfers for each year and where those students are going overall. So this is IDEA overall is, big competition. I know it in Region 1. But the second part of our story that we had talked about recently was looking at the schools and then the trend of each school seeing their enrollment kind of decline or erode a little bit. So I know this was a part of our discussion. And I know you've used these in several ways. And the disadvantage I have is I get to put all this data out there and get to send it, but I'm never in the meetings that you guys have. So I think some of them are, I'd be interested in hearing the feedback if it was how it was leveraged.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at overall district trends is important, but the solutions lie in the minutia, right? So looking very, very specifically at specific campuses, being able to look at data like our economic disadvantaged percentages, taking into consideration population growth and change in different parts of the city. All of those things help tell the story behind the number. And so while it's very easy to look at a trend line and say, we're losing kids or we're getting kids, right? We're growing enrollment, either way, whatever the case may be for your individual districts. These very specific data points where you're going to look at population change right next to economic status or right next to attendance, right? And right next to, just about any indicator that you can imagine really even helps you think of the stories you're going to tell, right? Because, just the number looking overall at a net gain or a net loss or a net zero is one thing, but really looking at all of the factors that go into that and what are the factors that we have some influence over, what are factors that we have zero influence over, which in my opinion aren't many, but then what do we begin to do, right? So having a tool like this that puts the data in front of you cuts the time between identification of an issue and problem solving, because we can spend all of our time in the strategy and problem solving mode as opposed to chasing down numbers and figuring out if they're right. So sort of consider Mr. Chris, an official member of our team.
An extension,
But,
a hired gun.
but,
Well, I certainly appreciate, I know you have an 11 you need to head out to. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Lisa. And I think I really do appreciate it. If I was in town, I would drive over and get you all lunch. So we're going to have to work it. We'll still work that out. Thanks. If you want to drop off, feel free to hop off, Lisa. I know you have another thing. Thank you.
I'll just add, if anyone has any specific questions about this part of the work around enrollment and trends and whatnot, I am happy to answer any questions that anyone may have or discuss further in detail. I know that we're limited on time, but Elizabeth Cavazos is my name, McAllen ISD. I'm pretty easy to find.
Lisa, just real quick before you leave, of course, thank you for being here and for sharing. And we are going to loop around to discuss our budgeting tools books. And we have lots of enrollment and attendance data in there. And so as Becky was speaking and now you speaking, I definitely want to see if McAllen and PSJA can join us to see how we enhance our books or what we can grab from forecast 5 data versus what do we still need to add or what's so comparable. Because when y'all were talking about the transfers between the districts, I thought, well, we've got that and it should match up with this data type of thing. So just know that we, Lord willing, we will reach out to you and again, and Adele and Becky and Janet and so forth. But thank you so much for sharing.
Thank
Chris,
you for having me.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you. If you guys are getting ready to go into the budget section, one of the things, and Chris, do you mind if I share
Yep,
real
I'm
quick?
stopping right now.
So we talked a lot about the capabilities of kind of looking within the year, but also a big part of the tool is actually building out that multi-year projection, including next year's budget. So we work with several districts on that budgeting process and we're going through the different areas. So what we do is we'll create automated uploads from your ERP where you can upload your budget into the system. And then we'll generate dashboards and reports that you can use. So, sort of a standard budget report with your general fund, food service, debt service, and your total adopted funds. But then we can also add in interactive graphics that you can publish out on your website. So like this would be a recapture district and you could instantly update that to say, okay, well, what would be my percentage of my expenditures that would be going towards instruction if I didn't have my recapture finances in there. So you have those with some required publications down here. After that, you can also add more information in to give sort of a year-over-year comparison of how your budgets are looking at different periods and points in time, and then how they compare going forward. So there's some options around those. And then the other part that we think is important is bringing in some of those key performance indicators to look at what is your fund balance to revenue trend, what are those ratios, how's your fund balance looking over a period of time, your expense to revenue ratios, and what would be causing variances within those, your days cash on hand. These are indicators that would be from TEA. If you have a surplus or a deficit ratio, and then your debt burden ratios and your admin cost ratios. So helping districts plan for those, project around those, and understand what those important parts are. And then creating some different, we allow users to create multiple scenarios and compare within multiple scenarios. So as Josh was talking about previously, and with the Moat Casey session, and hey, what's going to happen with this revenue coming in? We're not sure. We allow you to do that multiple scenario planning, and then be able to compare those. So you can go in and show what those finances at a glance would be going forward for your district, for your different funding sources, what your expenditure plan is, what that salary and benefits plan is. But then you can also quickly go through. We have a tool that we call Assumption Assist where it allows you to build out those multiple scenarios, come in and take information. Like I know Mo Casey does a revenue template, go run that revenue template, come in here, put in that template, see what that looks like, and be able to quickly enter your data. But combine that in line with like a salary and benefits calculator. So you can go through, quickly identify your staff, how much of a raise you want to give them, and then run multiple scenarios on what that would cost your district and what that would look like in your long-term financial planning. Once you do those and go through that stepped process of building out your budget, you can create multiple scenarios and then quickly compare those scenarios of what that would look like, what impacts would have on your fund balance, if you'd be generating a deficit or a surplus budget, and then additionally, what your teacher raises in different scenarios would look like for teacher raises, total salaries, and running through those different pieces. So these tools can really help districts do that long-term fiscal planning and be prepared for what's going to happen in the future. We've been having a lot of discussions around the country about getting this influx of ESSER funds, and then what happens when that funding source drops off in a few years. How much can you pick up in your general fund? What does that financial planning look like? So you can do that more long-range planning of not only what happens with that ESSER funding, what happens when that ESSER funding goes away? Are you going to pick up those positions? Are you going to have to sunset those? What does that look like in the long term? So those were a couple of the run-throughs. Becca, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate your insights of how you're using the PLUS tool and using that with your superintendent. Chris and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have, or if there's any thing that you would like us to show and visualize, we'd be happy to do that too. And if you want any more information, please feel free. You can get in touch with myself or Josh or Chris. I think Josh has to drop off the call, but we would all be happy to answer your questions.